Nancy from Nancy Inspired, for those of you that don't know me. And I have a gift that I call soul telepathy, and it is that I can hear what your soul's trying to tell you. When I do individual readings, it's like just what your soul's telling us, or me. But when I do a collective like this, I tap into what is the common denominator, what is the important messaging for everybody here at this moment in time. I do the first part is collective wisdom, where I'm telling you what I hear, and then the second part I take individual names for readings. If you want an individual reading, don't put your name in yet. Wait until I say, because it'll get lost in the chat. And there's a few people that I missed last week, so if you're here, I will add you onto the list first. All right, here we go. So tapping in. Oh, good, Tessa, I'm glad. Are you new here? If you're new here, welcome, welcome. All right. So tapping into the first bit of messaging. What do I hear for the group? Weirdly, I became aware of my teeth. Okay, so Tessa, since you're new here, I'll explain it. So I asked for the messaging. It comes in from my upper right side. It's coming from all of you, mixed with some divine wisdom, is what I believe. I feel it in my body. Sometimes it comes as words. Sometimes it comes as feelings. Sometimes it comes as pictures. And I just tell you what I'm hearing, and I'm on this journey with you, so I'm hearing the messages for myself too. And I became aware of my teeth. What the heck? Interesting. Okay. So basically the gist of it that I heard is what you give out is what you get back, but no, a little bit different. What you take care of is what you get back. So just like our teeth, I don't know about you, but I'm someone that regularly forgets to floss. And when I go to the dentist, it's like, you really need to floss. I'm like, you're right, I need to floss. And even though I know I need to do that, I don't. As a result, there's like cavities, there could be gum disease, there's all those different things. So what I'm hearing is it's a lot, I can't quite hear the words properly, but it's like what you take care of is what you get back, and adversely what you don't take care of is what ends up affecting you. So what I'm hearing is that we all have our little habits. I know for me, I don't drink enough water, and there's we all have our little habits. But what I'm hearing is that, okay, interesting. So what I'm hearing is that time is not linear, that there is the choices that we make today affect us later on. And if we look, okay, hold on. I'm just trying to understand it. If we look at time as not being linear, then we're feeling the effects right now. Okay, that's interesting. So by not taking care of things and not doing things, we kind of don't think it's important, because just like the dentist, I think that's why it's giving me the dentist one, is I don't think about flossing my teeth until the day before I go to the dentist, or when they're doing the horrible scaling thing and dealing with it, then I'm like, okay, I should really floss. So, okay, I understand. So the idea is that time is not linear. And if you think about the consequences of things as if they are today, right now, we become more motivated to do the things we need to do, like floss our teeth or drink more water or whatever it is. That when we think of things as in the future, we don't give it a sense of urgency. We don't prioritize it to the same degree if we're thinking of things that are like in the distant future. So what I'm hearing is time is not linear, and so to think of things as if they're happening right now. So if the consequence of my action is something that will affect me right in the moment, we're less likely to do it, or more likely to do it if it's taking care of something, the opposite. And so to think of time as not linear in order to help us be motivated to take care of things, because okay, so I'm hearing we are living in past, present, and future all at the same time. We just experience the moments in a chronological fashion, but everything's happening all at the same time. So what we do now is directly affecting what's happening later. That sounds kind of heavy because it's like, okay, if I don't if I don't do this, then I'm gonna. But you know what? When you think about it, right? There's lots of times when I go through my day and I'm like, oh, no big deal. I'll do that later. I'll take care of it later, or I'll make a better choice tomorrow. And we do always have the opportunity to practice and to, continue to improve ourselves. But that's what I'm hearing, is that if we think of time as not being linear and recognize that the consequences of our actions are actually facing us at this moment as well as in the future, we're more likely to make the choices we need to make the positive outcomes, make the positive outcomes more likely. Interesting. On that note, I'm going to take a sip of water because I know that's one of my bad habits, is I don't drink enough water in a day. Interesting. So time is not linear. Think of the consequences of your actions as if they were immediate right now. Would you still do them? And I guess maybe that's how we need to look at it, is throughout this week coming up, if we're about to do something, and if the consequences of this action was immediate, would I still do it? And if the answer is, then maybe don't do it. Or the opposite is true. If the consequence of this action, taking care of myself, is immediate, and I would feel it right now, would I do it? Yes, I'd be more motivated to do it. Interesting way of looking at motivation, as if time is not linear and the consequences of our actions are immediate. What would we change? What would we do different? Definitely going to think about that one. Okay. Anything else on that? No, not at the moment. Cecilia, I love this message too. It's actually hitting home for me, like not on big things, but yeah, if the consequences were immediate, would you do it? Right? Because a lot of things are gradual over time, and so we don't really notice it, right? Diana, I wouldn't have eaten the entire bag of potato chips at midnight last night, right? I just had a brownie before I did that. Not that there's anything wrong with eating a brownie or eating chips, but was I actually hungry? No, I wasn't hungry. It was just there, so I ate it, And if that moment where I'm getting dressed and my clothes feel too tight was actually right now as I'm about to do, maybe I wouldn't reach for that brownie, and I might wait till after dinner with my cup of tea, and I'd still have the brownie, but for different reasons maybe. Anyway, this isn't meant to be punitive or judgmental. It's more, if we think of the consequences of our actions as being immediate, would we do it? And if the answer is no, then maybe we don't do it. And if the answer is yes, then go for it. As I drink some more water. All right. Yeah, I kind of like that message. All right. What else do you got for us today? What else? Okay. So then this is it's sort of like, boom. Now we'll scale it back a little bit. So what I just heard is, remember that every day is practice. Every day is practice. Every moment of every day is practice. We are on this journey, on this lifetime. We are given I just was given the image. There was a game that my ex-husband used to play all the time, to the point that it drove me mad, because, I'm 9 months pregnant and trying to tidy up the house, and he's playing this game. And in this game, he used to roll the dice, and it would allow him to have different character traits, right? And then eventually he'd get like the best possible role for these character traits or whatever, and he'd spend hours doing this. What I got was this image that we come to this lifetime. We have this soul contract that says, here I am on this earth at this plane at this moment in time. These are some of the things I have to do. These are some of the things that I have to learn. And then there'll be some random experiences, thrown in there. And we're given a certain dice roll of character traits. We're going to have certain amounts of intelligence, certain amounts of resilience, certain amounts of strength and health, certain amounts of supports and friends along the way that can help us, or certain amounts of positive or negative family upbringing, or whatever it is that we're dealing with, and so we come with all that. And with all that, we're given these experiences. And what I'm hearing is to remember that every moment of every day is practice. And so if something doesn't work in this moment, it's practice. So maybe I didn't say no to that brownie right now. I'm only kidding about the brownie. It's not that really big of a deal. But I'm not going to beat myself up and be like, oh, I'm terrible because I did that. It's like, no, it's practice. Next time, I'm going to try and just be more aware of, do I really want it? Why am I eating it? Whatever. And if I really want it, then go for it, right? But every moment of every day is practice. And every moment of every day, we have a choice, right, of things that we can do. And I know I'm notorious for this, and that when I've made a mistake, sometimes I'm like, oh, forget it, and then I throw it all to the wind, but it's about practice. And if you don't, okay, so I just heard, the old saying, if at first you don't succeed, try again, right? And that goes for every moment of every day, right? And if I'm stuck feeling negative and resentful about a particular experience that I'm having, or a particular situation, and, I would like to practice being able to reframe and be positive, but it's practice, right? And so if I'm not successful at this time and I'm stuck in that, negative spiral, well, it's practice, and I don't have to stay there. I have the choice to continue to practice, and, adding the word yet onto things, I haven't quite forgiven about that yet. I haven't quite let go about that yet. I haven't quite developed the self-discipline for that yet. I haven't quite mastered making myself sit for meditation yet. That yet allows us the possibility that the next time I'm going to be successful, the very next time I'm going to be successful. And what I just heard is if we view everything as practice, and if we view every moment as a possibility and an opportunity to practice, then when we have setbacks, when we have challenges, it's not the end. It's not the end of the journey. We didn't just totally mess up and that's it, we're done. It's yet, right? We can practice. We'll have another opportunity, and we'll continue to have opportunities and continue to have opportunities, because every moment of every day is a practice, right? What do we want to do? And moving towards that at every moment of every day is practice. And I just heard this is why they call it a meditation practice. This is why they call it a yoga practice. I don't think you'll ever meet a yogi or a meditation practitioner that says, oh, I've mastered it, I'm done, I've got it. They may achieve certain levels, and they may have set goals for themselves, and they may achieve those goals. But my general understanding is the more people ascend, the more they realize they don't know. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know, and the more you continue to grow. Ooh, I like that. That's a little rhyme. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know, and the more opportunity to grow. And so allowing yourself to recognize that everything is practice. And if it didn't work this time, maybe it'll work tomorrow. And if it doesn't work tomorrow, maybe it'll work the next day, or maybe we'll reframe our goals. Okay, so then I just heard, just like in school, most of you know I'm also an educator, that sometimes if a student is just not having success, we need to change the goals a little bit. We need to change the accessibility to the goals. We need to provide tools to support. We need to provide help. We need to provide, whatever it is that they need, accommodations to allow them to be successful. Well, we're no different. We're on this journey. We're students of this lifetime. We're students of this journey. And sometimes we need a little bit of accommodation. We need some little bit of support. It's not up to us to do it by ourselves all the time. That's what I'm hearing. It's not up to us to have to do it by ourselves all the time. That we have support, that we can have accommodations, that we can allow ourselves to receive help along the way. I'm also hearing that help comes in lots and lots and lots of different forms. Sometimes it's, tools that we're given. Sometimes it's community. Sometimes it's the random message that shows up in the song that you're listening to. Sometimes it's little bits of validation. So I'm hearing to tell you a story. I'm not sure why this is relevant, but I'll tell the story and then it'll make sense. For those of you that are new here, I often get told, tell this story, and then usually it makes sense. So anyway, I've been on a little bit of a journey of trying to deal with my own issues with money and scarcity, right? And I tend to come from a lack mentality and worry about money and finances, and so I'm like, okay, manifestation, come from a place of gratitude, and I'm doing all this work, and it's not working. Or I shouldn't say it's not working, but it's not happening the way I imagine it should. Well, the other day I just reframed and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to ask for money. I'm just going to ask for what I need. And at that moment, what I wanted, since my daughter moved in, I only have one TV in my house, and my daughter's now in the basement, and so I don't really have access to my TV. And once in a while, I don't watch a lot of TV, but sometimes I like to, cuddle with my granddaughter and watch a show. So I'm like, I just need a monitor that I can, plug my computer into and then have a TV wherever I need it, whether it's, in my room or on the couch or whatever. And literally 2 days later, my parents called me and said, oh, we've just gotten, we decided to get a new computer and it came with a monitor. Do you have any use for an old monitor? And I'm like, I literally just asked for that. So that was beautiful. The next thing I was asking for, I was like, I'd really like a bike for my granddaughter to ride, and I'm figuring out, okay, I'll get one secondhand. And I was there was a couple that I had looked at that I wanted to try and go find, and I couldn't get a hold of the people. And then just as I was like, okay, I'm going to just go on to, Marketplace one more time and see if I can find, all of a sudden, just posted, like, as it said, just posted, 2 minutes from my house, someone was giving away a bike the same size of my granddaughter. So I was like, okay, I need to reframe. Why is this relevant? Because at first I'm like, hey, why am I even telling this story? But this is what I'm hearing. Is that, okay, now I understand. Because I'm like, why am I telling this story? Because I feel like I failed with my whole manifesting and trying to manifest and change my scarcity mindset. I feel like I'm not being successful because I am practicing and I have not succeeded yet, but we get help along the way. And these little signs of the monitor and the bike are signs that I'm on the journey, that I am receiving the help, that I am learning, that I am growing. And so to be aware that we are being helped along the way. It's just like puzzle pieces we have to unlock. This is not it doesn't look like this, it looks like this, but it's both wonderful, right? And sometimes what we think it's supposed to look like isn't what it actually looks like, and that we need to be open and accept that, and that we're given help to open and accept that. And we're given help along the way. So if there's something that's not quite working for you and you feel like you're not achieving it, think of the words as yet. And every single day, every single moment, every single hour is practice. And it's practice and it's practice and it's practice. And we keep practicing, and sometimes we fail, sometimes we succeed, and we keep practicing. And we are helped along the way. And sometimes that helps looks different. And then sometimes, like, I think why that was important, because I was talking about how we need to sometimes change the goals. When I'm working with students that are struggling, sometimes I got to change my expectation for them. I have to change how they're learning, how they're getting it, how they're accommodated, how they're helped. And that is the same. My guides went, oh, okay, you're doing this wrong. Instead of focusing on financial abundance, focus on what you want, focus on what you need, and it'll show up for you. And I'm realizing in my, little journey that is happening, and I do honestly feel truly abundant, we all worry about finances. Who doesn't? Well, I guess some people don't, but I am so abundant. I am so abundant. I have a beautiful community, both, online, in person. I have a beautiful home, beautiful family. Is it my granddaughter and I went for a big long bike ride today, and fairly close to my place are these like giant houses on the ravine. And as we're riding along, she's like, Nana, I kind of feel a little bit jealous when when I see these big houses. And I said, what? Sometimes I do too. But then I said to her, but who would clean a big house like that for us? And she's like, yeah, no, I like our small one better. So, we are abundant. But the main message of that is that when you feel like you're challenged and that it's not working for you, recognize that you are practicing. You're practicing every moment of every day. Raquel, we are being supported, even as so many are feeling fearful. Lean into prayer and manifesting what we want instead of what we don't through thoughts and actions. Absolutely. And it's a journey I'm on, Raquel. Honestly, I have an understanding, but I don't have the understanding yet, but I'm working on it. And I said yet, right? Yet. I'm working on it. All right. We're all working on things. Okay. Next bit of messaging. Sip of water. Whew, okay, that's an interesting bit of messaging. All right. I was given a bunch of images, so I just need to translate them. That's how it works. Sometimes it comes as images, feelings, thoughts, words, whatever, and I kind of have to translate it into what it's meaning. At the darkest point comes light, is the words that I heard. And then I was given flashes of images of really terrible things that are going on right now in the world, all over the place. There's a lot of terrible things. However, there is also a lot of beautiful things. And that's what I'm hearing. So even though it's easy to get overwhelmed with the stuff that's going on, we have opportunities like this. There is a meditation platform where people can come together. There's 48 of us here hanging out, receiving messages, and we're given this platform, so this is a beautiful thing. All the people here are trying to elevate their vibration, and it's simultaneous is what I'm hearing. Simultaneous. So with the rise of things that are dark also, and I don't like using the word dark, but with the rise that are things that are lower vibration, things to be feared, things to be things that are challenging, with that rises strength and connection, and I'm hearing collaboration and community. And okay, I'm here to tell you a story. Wow, I haven't thought about this in years. I was in grade 4, I think. Grade 4 or 5. So I would have been like 10 years old. And there was this guy. His name was Harvey. He was only at our school for a short period of time. But now in hindsight, as an educator, I recognize he had some both physical and mental special needs, I'm sure. And I remember being outside on the playground, the tarmac. Wow, I haven't thought about this for years. And there were some kids that were picking on Harvey. It was really ugly, and it scared me because they were like pushing him. They were hurting him. And I started to stand up to say something, but I was scared. The kids were older than me, and I was scared. And at that moment, another girl stood up, and we both started to say something, and then someone else said something, and then eventually someone went and got the teacher, and we ended up, stopping this from happening. And the girl that stood up with me, we had never really talked before. We ended up becoming best friends and really close friends from that event. I haven't thought about that in a long time. And what I heard is that out of a negative situation, when we see something happening and there's an injustice or there's something that we don't like, it actually causes people to start rallying together to support each other that maybe they wouldn't have before. I may not have ever really talked to that girl before, but because we both were trying to be brave to stop something and make something happen, we connected, we bonded, we became friends. And so recognize that when you are in a situation that there's stuff happening that you are feeling needs to change, this is the time to, create that community and recognize that it's part and parcel, right? Where, as the negative vibration starts to take over, the higher vibration says, no, here we go. And it's going to keep rising. So to recognize that in times of fear, to look for the positive, look for the joy, look for the connection, look for the community, and don't be afraid to get involved in that connection in those communities. What I'm hearing is that some of the negative situations are causing people to wake up, causing people to recognize and notice their own gifts, their own strengths, causing people to turn to things like meditation, metaphysical things, energy work, sound baths, sound healing. I mean, if you look back, now that I think about it, if you look back, 20 years ago, not even 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I'm 54 now, 30 years ago, I was looking for something to heal. I had a lot of pain in my feet. I was very unhappy with certain situations. And I was looking for something that would help me. And I saw a sign up above a window that said yoga. And at the time, it wasn't like you could just go to a yoga studio. That was like 30 years ago, or just less than 30 years ago. There weren't yoga studios everywhere, and there was this yoga teacher, and she was phenomenal. I wish I knew where she was now. Her name was Micheline. She was from Quebec. She was amazing. But she, so I did this yoga class, and now you can find yoga studios anywhere. You can go online. We have Insight Timer, live yoga. There's, and so if you think about the evolution, yes, there's a lot of heavy. There's a lot of low vibration. There's a lot of things that are trying to pull us down. But there are more and more things. You didn't hear, only a select few did like meditation retreats or yoga retreats or even online retreats, this kind of community. There are so many things that are rising. And so I'm hearing this as a message of hope, as a message of joy, that as things are heavy and as things are hard, these beautiful things are actually rising as well. Sorry, my door just opened and I got startled. But I think my daughter just came home. Okay. Anyway, I got distracted. Lost my train of thought there. That's all right. Okay, let's see. Next bit of messaging. Hello, Nicola. Let me just see. Yes, and Ella, a lot of beautiful things happening. A lot of things are more accessible, more available, more possible. All right, what else? All right, so that's actually the next bit of messaging. The next bit of messaging is sometimes it's okay to believe in the impossible. It's okay to, I know I've shared this story before, but I'm hearing to share it again, is I did a tea leaf reading once for a podcast that I was invited to speak at. And they asked me to do a tea leaf reading and then kind of like send them the image, but reveal what it meant on air. So I did, and I got this beautiful image of this little fairy kind of angel thing, and an owl was laying down, and the fairy's just kind of holding the owl, like nursing the owl. The owl's, sick or whatever. And when I tapped into the messaging, it was about how sometimes when, logic and reasoning and, puzzling things out doesn't work, sometimes you got to turn to faith and hope and the things we can't see and the metaphysical and the beliefs, that will help us. And when I shared it on air, there was kind of silence for a little bit, and I right away kind of worried, like I was like, did I say something wrong, And they said, Nancy, do you know what the name of this episode is? I was like, no, actually I don't. And they said it was called Wisdom and Woo Woo, and that's what it was about, that sometimes we need to rely on our wisdom, and sometimes we can rely on the magic and the mysticism. So that's what I'm hearing, is that it's okay to believe in things that seem impossible. So as long as it's not hurting anybody, as long as it's not taking advantage, as long as it's for the highest good, right? If it helps me to believe that my guides are helping me on learning manifestation by allowing me to get a monitor and a little bike for my granddaughter, does that hurt anybody? No. Has it stopped me from working hard and trying my best and setting goals and putting time into things? No, I'm still working. But if I feel like I'm being helped and I'm being guided along the way, what does that hurt? It doesn't. Whether it's true or not, it doesn't hurt. And that's what I'm hearing, that sometimes believing in that magic, believing in that mysticism, believing in messaging, believing in things that seem impossible, right? That that's what is lacking right now, is believing in some of those things that seem impossible. So yeah, interesting. I'm here to tell you a story. Again, I'm not sure why. I recently discovered a podcast called The Telepathy Tapes by Kai Dickens. And it's basically, the premise is that non-speaking autistic kids, some of them demonstrate telepathic abilities. And it's interesting because, I'm listening to it and going, wow, that's cool. I work with a number of non-speaking autistic kids. And so in my mind, I'm like trying to talk to them. Haven't received any, validation back. But I thought to myself, am I doing any kind of disservice by thinking that? And I was like, no, all it does is allow me to presume competence, that maybe at some point they'll be able to communicate with me. I'm still teaching them the assistive communication stuff. I'm teaching them, we're still doing all the things. It's not like I've stopped and went, oh, you're telepathic, so I don't have to teach you anyway. But if believing in that allows me to presume competence and allows me to be excited about the possibilities as opposed to being frustrated that I'm not making progress, then what does it hurt, right? And the reason why I'm sharing this story, I think this is why, is because I shared that podcast and that idea with the person who coordinates our assistive technology program, and said, have you heard of this podcast? It's interesting. And she wrote back saying that it's been discredited because of this, and some different things. And it actually, for a little bit, I stopped listening to the podcast. It was interesting. And this is why I'm here to tell you the story, I think. Because I actually stopped listening for a little bit because I was like, oh, okay, it's been discredited, so it doesn't. But then I started thinking about it, and I was like, wait a minute. Just because one person said, no, it's been discredited because there was a certain case where somebody, manipulated the situation using the spelling technique that they're using. And I thought, but you know what? If it's helping me feel like there's hope and there's possibility, and it's helping these families feel like there's hope and possibility, and actually when you listen, there's lots of different evidence or whatever, you can decide how you feel about it. But the point that I'm making, and the point that I'm hearing, is that sometimes it is perfectly okay, and not only just perfectly okay, but necessary. That's what I'm hearing. Sometimes it's necessary for us to believe in magic, for us to believe in possibility, for us to believe. Why not believe that at some point you could communicate telepathically? I communicate telepathically. When I think about it right now, sure, I can't read your mind, but I know that when I do readings one-on-one for people, I can hear what's going on for them. I don't know their story. I don't know what's going, like I don't know what's going on, but I feel it and I hear it. And so far, I haven't been told that I'm way off base and I'm wrong, And so I know that on some level, that's why I call it soul telepathy. Why couldn't there be a jump and have it be that there could be a mind to mind connection? And why couldn't it be? Some of these autistic kids can do incredible things like memorize schedules and all these different things that, a typical developing brain can't do. Why not telepathy? So the point is that I'm making, the channeling that I'm hearing, is that it's not only okay to believe in the magic, but it's necessary to believe in the magic. It's necessary to believe that there are things beyond ourselves, that there are skills that you have that are beyond what you are even aware of right now, that every single one of you has skills and abilities beyond what you're aware of right now. And then I just heard, and if you keep practicing, back to the first bit of messaging, the yet, and keep practicing and doing what you know is good and in alignment with you, and you keep practicing, then we will get there. Then we will be able to do that, and we'll be able to continue to elevate human consciousness one person at a time. I'm just gonna look at the chat here for a second. Yes, Kate, I love this podcast. It's fascinating, isn't it? It's actually, I recommend it. I highly recommend listening to it. The experiences they did were 100% stringent for this. That's what I believed. This one person that naysayed it sounded really convincing, and I was like, okay, and stopped listening. But then I was like, no, I'm not going to let one person destroy my belief. I agree. From Teresa, we need to believe in the impossible. I know of someone that is missing still after the makeup. Oh no. I hope that they are found, Teresa. And you know what? Sometimes we need to have that faith. Sometimes we need to have that faith. There are so many mystical things that happen around us all the time. But somehow we choose to focus on the mundane, day to day, as opposed to these brilliant miracles. And when you think about the miracles that are happening around us all the time, I mean, I'm in the midst of spring. As I look outside my window, the trees are starting to bud. I mean, that in itself is a miracle. Every year, the trees bud. There's a cycle. There's life. There's so many miracles. Why can't they be bigger? Why can't there be magic and things? And if it's not hurting anybody and it's not taking advantage of anybody, then why not? I'm not a fan of charlatans or people that, say things that end up hurting people. Don't like that. But if it's not hurting anybody, then that belief in magic is actually necessary. All right. You're welcome, Lulu. It is a great reminder. These are, this is why I love doing this, because these are all reminders for me as well, That's also why I record them, so that I look back. Johnny, I think connecting to our higher self is a form of telepathy. Agreed. So why can't we expand that to connect to other forms and levels? Well, how many of us, honestly, I bet every single one of us, and I'm curious, feel free to put it in the comment, but how many people have thought about somebody and all of a sudden they call, or you call somebody and they're like, oh, I was just thinking about you. I can't even tell you how many times that happened. Or one time I had lost contact with a very good friend and was like, oh, I wonder whatever happened to that person. And then all of a sudden the next day they were in the newspaper because they had done something with some stuff downtown. About a week later, I was downtown and they were across the street from me. And this is a person I hadn't seen in years. And I just happened to start thinking about, like, hey, I wonder whatever happened to that person. And there they were across the street as I was crossing the street. So I mean, these things happen all the time. Okay, what I'm hearing, I just heard that we are all energy. Everything is all energy. And as we put out thoughts, other people putting out thoughts, when those thoughts are in alignment, they connect. So if I'm putting out thoughts that are saying, this is what I need, then, and that is, part of telepathy, I guess. You're sending out that signal with your mind, and it's being received, and so that's where these mystical events happen, where, I think every one of us have had those experiences. So why not? Why can't it be extended? Okay, so I just heard that the more that you believe that something is possible, the more likely it will be possible. And that goes back even to us talking at the beginning about goals that we're setting, and that it's not failure, it's practice. We're not there yet, kind of thing. That if we believe that something is possible, it is more possible than if we think it's not, right? There's that adage, or that saying that's like, you'll always miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? If we believe that things are possible, then they are. Okay, I just heard too. Okay, so what I'm hearing is all of these things are actually in our DNA. The ability to speak telepathically, our ability to connect energetically across distances, which I know because I do remote readings. I can do readings for people across the world. In fact, that's my challenge, is time zones, trying to organize time zones. And it's no different than if the person is sitting in front of me, and so that's what I'm hearing, is that we all have that ability within our makeup, within our design. We have these abilities, and it's about us recognizing them and using them and learning to use them. But the first thing is to believe that it is possible. All right. I am just watching the chat here for a second. Yes, everyone's like, me. Yes, this happens to me. See them all the time. Yeah, exactly. The producer of the Telepathy Tips is on the Jay Shetty podcast and talks about all the things behind the scenes that made her a believer. You should watch. I would like to watch it. I've been listening to the talk tracks. On this road of giving up my fantasy views, I started to embrace my dyslexia on the way. Awesome. You know what? We are the way we are, I believe. And yes, it is a podcast, but she is a documentary filmmaker as well. Yeah, Kai Dickens. Definitely worth a listen. Anyway, okay, we're going to move into part 2.